event for today. This is event themed Renewable and Natural Gas Partnership. It's a joint event by the Gas Exporting Countries Forum and Iranian Renewable Energy Association. As the theme for today, I'm sure you'll all agree with me that the global energy expansion that continue to rise from the current 14.7 gigaton of oil equivalent, rising to about 17.9 gigaton of oil equivalent by 2050, according to the GECF 8th edition of the Global Gas Outlook, is definitely going to be a huge system. And that huge system of primary energy sources is a mix of energies that are going to provide this booming energy needs for our sustainable development, for our technological expansion, particularly the AI, as well as improved living standard. Our esteemed audience, you will believe with me that this complicated energy system do benefit from partnership, and we do see potential for renewables and natural gas to partner. For the session today, we are going to have two sessions. We will start by welcoming session by His Excellency Kamal Abbasov, Deputy Energy Minister, Republic of Azerbaijan, and then His Excellency Engineer Mohammed Hamel, Secretary General of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum. After the opening remark, then we go into the straight into the second session, which is the panel discussion, where I will introduce our esteemed panelists. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, Secretary General, dear guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, allow me to greet all you at this important event and express my gratitude to Gas Export Countries Forum for the invitation. Today, we are here to discuss an important part of our future, the partnership between natural gas and renewable energy. As the world shifts to cleaner and more sustainable energy, it's important to understand how these two energy sources can work together to create a stronger energy system. The collaboration between natural gas and renewables is not just about the present, but also ensuring a stable and secure energy transition for the future. Natural gas plays an important role in supporting renewable energy by providing a reliable source of power when wind solar energy is not available. As we move to cleaner energy, natural gas helps balance power grids and ensure a steady supply of electricity. By working together, natural gas and renewables create a stronger, lower carbon energy system, helping us reduce emissions while ensuring energy security. Natural gas plays an important role in our energy mix, but renewables are the future. In Azerbaijan, known for its oil and gas resources, we recognize the importance of diversifying our energy sources to ensure long-term sustainability. That's why we have been taking steps to implement a strong renewable energy policy. Currently, we are cooperating with leading international energy companies such as Masdar, ACWA Power, BP, and other companies to implementation of green energy projects that will be beneficial for domestic consumption, decarbonization of economy, and export in the next decades. The 230 megawatt Garadagh solar power plant was put into operation in 2023, and Garadagh solar power plant is one of the largest solar power plant in the Caspian region. The plant was designed to produce 500 million kilowatt hours of electricity annually, saving 110 million cubic meters of natural gas. Also, under the agreement signed in June 2022, Masdar will invest in the development of 4 gigawatts of renewable energy projects, including both onshore and offshore wind as well as solar power. This year, the groundbreaking ceremony of the 760 megawatt solar power plant, as well 240 megawatt wind power plant was held. This project will be implemented also by Masdar. Wind power plant with a capacity of 240 megawatt is under construction by Saudi Arabia's Aqua Power company. The wind farm will be put into operation in 2025. The station is planned to produce 1 billion kilowatt hours of electricity per year, which will save 220 million cubic meters of natural gas and prevent the emission of more than 400,000 tons of greenhouse gas into atmosphere. Azerbaijan is currently working on realization of several green energy projects. Agreement on strategic partnership in the field of the green energy development and transmission between Government of Republic Azerbaijan, Georgia, Romania, and Hungary was signed in December 2022 by leadership of these countries. In realization of this agreement, Caspian Black Sea Europe Energy Corridor will connect Azerbaijan, Georgia, Romania, and Hungary with the purpose of export approximately 4 gigawatt of green energy. Bulgaria, in the COP29, announced its accession to this project. Also, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, and Uzbekistan agreed to transport green electricity from Central Asia to Europe through Azerbaijan. And this can become a useful extension of a Caspian Black Sea Europe Green Energy Corridor. In conclusion, the partnership between natural gas and renewables is essential for ensuring a stable and low-carbon energy future. While natural gas provides reliable support, renewables are key to long-term sustainability. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, His Excellency Kamal Abbasov, Deputy Energy Minister, Republic of Azerbaijan. Next, I will invite His Excellency Engineer Mohammed Hamel, Secretary General of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum, for the opening remark. Excellency.
Excellency Kamal Abbasov, Deputy Minister of Energy of the Republic of Azerbaijan, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I would like first to express my appreciation to His Excellency for honoring us with his presence, to the distinguished panelists, and to you all for being with us today. This side event focuses on the synergies between natural gas and renewables. According to GECF projections, renewables will be the fastest growing energy source through 2050, followed closely by natural gas, the second fastest growing energy. These two energy sources are complementary within the framework of sustainable development, which is underpinned by three interconnected and mutually reinforcing pillars: economic growth, social progress, and the protection of the environment. The demands on global electricity supply are intensifying at an unprecedented rate, driven by the rapid rise of data centers, artificial intelligence applications, air conditioning, and water desalination, all of which require continuous, reliable power. These sectors are highly energy intensive, especially as data-driven technologies and cooling systems become integral to both urban life and economic activities. The demand for water desalination is also accelerating, particularly in regions with limited freshwater resources, adding to the need for substantial, stable electricity. So addressing these growing needs, or growing demand with both reliability and low emissions, presents a significant challenge, one that we believe the partnership of natural gas and renewables is uniquely equipped to meet. Solar, as you know, and wind power fluctuate within weather and time of the day, creating gaps in power availability that can disrupt grid stability. And natural gas-fired power plants, particularly modern combined cycle gas turbine plants, are technically suited to adjust output rapidly and can respond to shifts in renewable output, providing crucial services like frequency regulation, voltage stabilization, and spinning reserves. From an emissions standpoint, The hybrid use of natural gas and renewables is a well-proven method for reducing CO2 emissions. For example, switching from coal to gas reduces CO2 emissions by nearly 50%, which is further enhanced when gas-fired power plants are integrated with carbon capture, utilization, and storage technology. Capable of capturing, when combined with CCUS, capable of capturing up to 90% of CO2 emissions. So together, natural gas and renewables form a lower carbon, reliable solution that addresses both current and future demands for electricity, particularly in densely populated areas that experience high power loads. Conversely, the carbon footprint of natural gas operations can be reduced through renewables-based electrification of these operations. In terms of infrastructure, natural gas offers advantages that support renewable growth without requiring excessive or costly upgrades. Investments in pipelines, storage facilities, and grid interconnection for natural gas reinforce the existing grid, enabling it to integrate higher shares of renewables over time. In emerging markets across Africa, Asia, and Latin America, this partnership of gas and renewables allows for a balanced, economically viable energy mix that can support industrialization, improve energy access, and contributes to improving the electrification in these regions where renewable technology may still be scaling up. Thank you once again to our distinguished panelists for having accepted our invitation to be with us today. And thank you to all of you. And I wish you a productive panel discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Excellency Mohammed Hamel, for a resounding opening remark. To move on to the second panel of this conversation today, I'm going to introduce our panelists, starting from my very right, Dr. Amin Naderian, who is Head of Energy Forecast and Economics Department at the GECF. Next is Dr. Masuma Morazade, who is Energy Policy and Environmental Analyst at the GECF. Then I do have Mr. Claudio Gilmbati, who is the Chief Economist of the Rested Energy. Thank you very much for joining us. And then we do have Mr. Malik Masfoud. Mr. Malik has been the head of the climate change negotiation and emission reduction at Sonatrach, Algeria. Thank you very much, our distinguished panel. Without taking time, I'm going to invite Dr. Amin Naderian, who is going to make the first presentation for today.
Good afternoon, Excellencies, dear guests and esteemed panelists. It's an honor to speak with you today at COP29 about one of the most pressing challenges in our energy transitions, which is the integrating of renewables into power systems while ensuring reliability, affordability, and sustainability. My name is Mohammed Amin Naderian. I'm the head of Energy Economics and Forecasting Department at GECF. And the focus of my presentation today is on the critical partnership between natural gas and renewable energy and how this relationship can shape emerging power system, particularly in developing economies. Well, as we push to decarbonize the power sector, one thing becomes clear, and it is the variability in renewable energy sources like solar and wind, which is a significant challenge in case. For instance, during a single day, there are substantial fluctuations in the supply of solar and wind power, coupled with peak and troughs in demand. And you can imagine a day when solar generation is high during midday, but demand spikes in the evening. This mismatch creates the need for backup power. Moreover, on a broader scale, while wind and solar output also vary from day to day and season to season. And a cloudy winter week with little wind can lead to extended periods where renewables can't meet demand. This variability must be addressed to avoid blackouts and maintain grid reliability and stability. And backup solution, particularly flexible options like natural gas, are essential to smooth these imbalances both over time and space. When we integrate more variable renewable energy or VREs into the grid, the power system undergoes a fundamental transformation. Power systems with high share of VREs require much higher installed capacity because of the lower utilization rate of solar and wind assets compared to thermal power plants such as natural gas power plants. In simple terms, we need to install far more renewable capacity to generate the same amount of electricity as a gas or somehow coal plant. Furthermore, thermal generation assets like natural gas plant transition from being a base load provider, which means running continuously, to a flexibility provider, which ramp up and down as needed in order to secure and guarantee the reliability and stability of the grid. While this shift ensures grid stability, it also increases system costs, which is known as flexibility costs. And it finally ended up in higher costs for production of electricity in the emerging power systems. To accommodate the variability of renewables, we need a massive scale-up of flexibility solutions. On the supply side, flexibility can come from energy sources, backup thermal generation, and interconnections with other power systems, maybe in case cross-border. In systems with high variable renewable energy penetration, which may in some outlook, it may also increase to 70 to 90% of the power generation mix, the total capacity of flexibility solution must grow 2 to 3 times faster than overall power demand. However, we should acknowledge that there is no single solution in this regard. Storage, interconnections, and flexible generation each play complementary or partnership role in this regard in order to guarantee the flexibility. Together, they ensure that power can be delivered when and where it's needed. Despite this promising solution, barriers are also here, maybe to stay. Let's start with energy storage. For example, this new technology of LDES or long duration energy storage is still in the early stages and faces significant technological and scalability challenges. Even mature technologies like lithium-ion batteries are constrained by the availability of critical minerals like lithium and cobalt, which limits their deployment. For interconnections, which means linking power grids across borders, although it offers another pathway to flexibility, but these projects require large amount of land, lengthy development timelines, and significant coordination between countries or regions. Finally, even thermal systems like natural gas plants also face some challenges in the new emerging power systems. In renewable heavy grids, these plants operate less frequently and their capacity factor drops. And without market mechanism or some sort of design for market mechanism to ensure that the economic viability of investment in this infrastructure, the further investment for the thermal power plants is also may be impacted. These challenges highlight the need for region-specific, tailored approach to flexibility. Emerging power systems, when we look forward, emerging power system must strike a balance between firm power and renewable to expand and at the same time decarbonize simultaneously. Consider this case. Most new renewable energy capacity in recent years has been deployed in mature power systems, particularly in advanced countries, like those in advanced countries such as in the ERIA, where energy demand is stable and electricity consumption per capita has not changed, at least for decades, for example, from 2000 up to now. However, in developing countries like China and India and many of the African countries, where overall power generation is still growing rapidly, most of the expansion has relied on firm power sources like natural gas. This balance is crucial. While renewables are vital for a sustainable future, firm power provides the foundation for system reliability. For many developing countries, this balance is the only realistic and pragmatic pathway to decarbonization. Developing economies face unique challenges when integrating renewables. Their power system typically lack the flexible capacity needed to manage large share of solar and wind energy, and incremental flexibility which is required in the future in these regions can be achieved in 3 ways. Adding thermal generation asset, particularly natural gas, which can ramp up and down quickly to meet demand and provide the reliability and stability of the grid. Scaling up energy storage system, which in many cases would need to grow hundreds of times to meet the flexibility requirements, and investing in interconnections with neighboring grids, though this is often a longer-term solution for the flexibility. Natural gas in this context is especially important for these economies, I mean the developing countries. It provides firm power and supports renewable energy integration and ensures energy access while enabling economic growth. So what's the big picture here? The orderly, just, and equitable energy transitions require the utilization of all sources of energy and deployment of energy technologies. Moreover, there is no singular energy transition pathway or trajectory on global scale. Different countries have their own optimal energy transition trajectories based on their national circumstances, priorities, and capabilities, and beyond their resources and even their geographies. In this framework, natural gas play a pivotal or a vital role. It's not just a bridge, it's a partner to renewables, which offers the flexibility, scalability, and reliability needed for high variable renewable energy system. In developing economy, specifically, where energy demand is growing rapidly and electrification is also ongoing, this partnership becomes even more critical. Natural gas ensures that these countries can expand access to electricity without locking themselves into costly and non-reliable pathways. As we move forward, we must focus on tailored strategies, innovative technologies, and policy framework that make this partnership work. This isn't just about technology. It's about people, economies, and our shared future. Thank you for the time and attention, and I look forward to your discussion and questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amin, Head of Energy, Economics and Forecasting Department at the GECF. And thank you again for keeping to the time. Just as a housekeeping rule, I want to kindly remind our esteemed panelists that the presentation should be kept within 10 minutes so that we will be able to utilize the time that we are in this space. Next on my list is Dr. Masuma Murazadeh, who is the energy policy and environmental analyst at the GECF. Mrs. Masuma, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Abu Bakr. And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In this part, I will discuss the role of natural gas and renewable in power sector decarbonization. But I will go through more numbers with this feature. IPCC in its 6th assessment report says that global carbon intensity for energy system decreased by 0.3% per year. And it says that this reduction in global carbon intensity is due to 4 main factors. The first one is fuel switching from coal to gas. The second one is reduced expansion of coal capacity. And the third one is increased use of renewables. So if we take a look at the power generation from 1919 to 2023, we see that the most power generation have been come from coal and natural gas. More than half of the power generation comes from these 2 energy sources. Here in this chart, you can see the share of different energy sources in power generation, in global power generation. In the left axis, we have the share of these energy sources in percent, and in the right-hand axis, we have the carbon intensity of the power generation. The dashed red line shows this carbon intensity, which is based on kilograms CO2 per kilowatt hour of power generation. As you can see here, as natural gas and the share of natural gas and renewable increases, the global power generation carbon intensity decreases. If I say the numbers for that, the carbon intensity for the power generation in 1990 has decreased from 0.5 to 0.4 in 2023. And this figure shows that the importance role of natural gas and renewable in decreasing the carbon intensity of the power generation. And as my colleagues and His Excellency mentioned, this is because that in comparison of natural gas with coal and oil, natural gas produce very less CO2, more than 30 or to 60% less CO2 for each kilowatt hour of power generation. And also we know that the efficiency of fire gas power plant is more than the coal fire power plants. And to show this better, I just have shown here that the fossil fuel-based power generation, the power generation that just comes from fossil fuel, from coal which is shown here in the black area from natural gas and from oil. And here we have, again, two lines. One line, the red one, is the same that we had in previous chart. It's related to the carbon intensity of the power generation of fossil fuel-based power generation. And the dashed yellow line shows the ratio of gas to coal. And you can see here that as ratio of gas to coal increased during this years and this period, the global carbon intensity of fossil fuel-based power generation decreases. But I would like to just show this situation in 3 different countries which have taken different approaches for decarbonizing the power generation system. The first one is the UK. In this country, they try to decarbonize their power sector with low carbon sources, whatever that were available for them. And you can see here this chart shows the share of each fuel for the power generation in these 3 countries. And as you can see here, the share of coal has a steep decline in the UK, especially for 2 periods. One started from 1990 till 2000. In this period, they replaced the coal with the natural gas and with the nuclear power, which were available in that time. And they were successful to reduce the carbon intensity of the power generation from 65%. Oh, sorry, they were successful to reduce the share of coal from 65% to 33% by 1999. And the second sharp decrease, you can see here, is clear between the period of 2012 till the recent years, and they could reach to a share of coal, to decrease the share of coal to 10%. And totally, they were successful to reduce the emission intensity 62% from 1990 to 2023. And if you remember, recently they announced that they are ready to phase out the last coal power plant that they had. But compared to UK, we have the Germany. Germany is very famous for substantially investment in the solar and wind and renewables. However, as you can see, the share of coal, the coal is so far the main part of the power generation system, and they were just successful to, they had just limited success in decarbonizing their power sector, with emission decreasing by only 70% since 1990. And when this year the G7 countries decided to have a timetable for phasing out the coal power plants, the Germany was the country that asked for more time because they think that they are not able to phasing it out very soon. And we have the US here, the power generation in the US. In the US, transitioning away from coal was accelerated by the increase in shale gas production from 2009. And this was the main factor of decarbonization of their power generation so far, and they were successful in a 26% reduction in their carbon intensity of the power generation. So this comparison very clearly shows that different approach that countries can take for decarbonizing. And you know that this decade is a critical decade for decreasing the emission. And so we believe that the renewable are very good and will play a very significant role, but we can't just wait for the renewable to rolling out, as Dr. Amin explained, the obstacles and limitations that we have with the renewables. So we need all low carbon energy sources that we have. And just to give a clue about the level of decarbonization that we can have with the gas to coal switching, coal to gas switching, sorry. If we know we have something around 2,000 gigawatt capacity for coal-fired generation. If we replace all of this with the natural gas, we can save annually 10 gigatons CO2, but we know that it's not possible because many of the factors. However, we understand that there is something around 171 gigawatt coal-fired capacity, outdated and over 30 years old, 30-year-old, that are very close to the LNG terminals. And it's possible that to substitute this coal-fired power plants with the gas. And with this, we can save something around 0.5 gigatons CO2 per year. And most of this capacity that I talked about, this outdated capacity, is locating in developing countries, mostly in Asia. However, the low-hanging fruit here is the area and in the regions that have capacity, ample capacity, enough capacity for coal power generation and for natural gas power generation at the same time. And in these areas, it's just the price of the coal and price of the natural gas and some incentive, some encouraging policy that can push this coal to gas switching. And in this area, we can the potential to save something around 1.2 gigatons CO2 per year. And yeah, this is the very, we can say that low-hanging fruit for decarbonization. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Masuma. Very comprehensive number analysis there. I just wish to remind our esteemed panelists to kindly do everything possible to squeeze their presentation within the time frame. Without taking time, I'm moving on to Claudio Galimbati, who is the chief economist as well as the global director of market analysis at Rusted Energy. Very good to have you there, Claudio. You have the floor now.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction, Abubakar, and thank you, the Gas Exporting Country Forum, for inviting us today. So today I would like to focus on our latest scenario of energy transition and to show the importance that natural gas has in our long-term scenario. So I will start with this very busy slide, but this is just for us to have an idea, a general idea of how complex the system is, the entire energy system. You cannot just focus on the sources of energy, which is what you find on the left-hand side of this chart, but you also need to absolutely understand what's stand on the right-hand side, which is the sector, the uses of energy. And of course, the energy transition will occur on both sides. You cannot just focus on one, and also on the in-between, which is the transformation and the transportation of energy. Now, speaking about the energy in total, what we have currently, it is, as we all know, it is a system which is still very much dominated by the fossil fuel. So we have a total consumption, a total production of energy, primary energy, which is equivalent close to actually above 600 exajoule per year. And 80%, more than 80% of that is the production occurs through the burning of fossil fuel. You see that historically this continues to increase. So starting from 1965 and even earlier. So there is clearly a very strong correlation between the energy demand and the global economy, as we know. But there is a very important thing that we are forecasting in our scenario is that at some point, and this is, I'm showing you here a fast degree scenario, the total production will peak. And we need to ask ourselves what happens there. I have the answer on the next slide. So and it boils down pretty much to the increase in efficiencies that we are going to see with a fast transition into the energy system, fast transition into renewables. In this case, I highlighted the 3 degree scenarios that are important for our understanding. Is the 1.9 is what we expect to happen. So it's our base case. 2.2 is low transition. And 1.6 is fast transition. You see that the difference there is, of course, the role that fossil fuel, natural gas, and renewable are going to play. 1.6 predominant is the share of the renewables. The 2.2, we still have a fossil fuel, basically energy system. This is the important slide I was referring to, and this is one important thesis of a scenario of energy transition. What we say is that an energy system which will be based on renewables will be a leaner system, a leaner in the sense that it's going to be more efficient. You see that in reality, the total consumption of energy, even in the 1.6 degree scenarios, continues to increase, while the total production decreases, and the difference stands in the fact that we are going to reduce the losses that are related to the fossil fuel. So the system, a renewable system is going to be leaner, is going to be for sure cleaner in the sense we're going to have fewer emissions. We also going to see, we need to be aware that going into 2050, we're going to see a shift in the countries that are going to increase demand. So far in the past 25 years, it's been China. In the next 25 years, 27 years, it's going to be primarily India, Southeast Asia, and the rest of the world. And the reason is that, of course, China is going through a demographic kind of stabilization. Now, where does natural gas play a role? Natural gas play an extremely important role in all the 3 scenarios. But of course, if we're going through a transition, probably the share, specifically in the 1.6 degree scenario, is supposed to decline. While in a 1.9 degree scenarios and 2.2 degree scenarios, the share of natural gas will remain relatively high, but probably slightly below what we currently have, which is roughly 30%. Now, it's important to realize that one of the reasons why we're seeing this is that if we look at the levelized cost of energy, these are, of course, global averages. What we see is that the renewables tend to be cheaper in many cases. So here we reach the 3rd thesis of the energy transition: leaner, cleaner, but also cheaper. But there is one important caveat, as my esteemed colleague was saying earlier, is that a renewable system by itself cannot self-sustain. Of course, we have the problem of intermittency. Sorry, this is the slide got flipped. And with this, we need backup capacity. We need dispatchable fuel, and we need batteries. Otherwise, we will never be able to address the intermittency of the energy system. It's very important that we realize that we have these many scenarios for the natural gas demand. And in the case of a slow transition, we could see a significant increase in the natural gas demand, as high as almost 5.5 billion cubic meters per year. While in the case of a fast transition, we may be close to the peak of the energy demand. I'm checking the time. I probably have still 2 or 3 minutes. Is that correct? So it's also important to remind ourselves that even if we're facing a potentially at some point a peaking of the demand of natural gas, the supply side of the equation being a depletable resource needs to be replenished. And in the case of a 1.9 degree scenarios, we see that we have a consumption of 2.5 billion cubic meters per year in 2040 that needs to be produced. So this is a very important reminder for all the natural gas producing countries that this is what we're facing, even in the case of the energy transition. And of course, it's also important to remind ourselves that globally, we are facing regions that in which the demand for natural gas will continue to increase. For instance, Asia amongst all, and regions in which the natural gas demand is on a declining trend. And of course, we need to also to understand which regions will continue to provide the natural gas to the other regions via the LNG, and these are, of course, the Middle East, North America, and Russia going forward. I'll wrap it up by skipping a few slides, otherwise we don't get to within the next 5 minutes. But important here to remind that, for instance, in the case of China, in the case of a 1.9 degree scenarios of energy transition, you see that at some point in time towards the end of this decade, we are going to face a problem of LNG. So we need to increase the amount of LNG imported in the country because that is not contracted yet. The same occurs with India, which is going to see a very, very significant growth of natural gas demand in the case of 1.9 degree scenarios. And even in the case of the 1.6 degree scenarios, India will need an increase in the natural gas. So let me conclude with the next two slides. This is the LNG. So this is the LNG demand over the next 25 years. You see that we need, even for in the case of the LNG, we need to increase the supply of LNG by roughly 170 million tons per year in 2040. And if that is the case, then what we see is that the marginal cost of LNG in that case by 2040 is going to be around $10 per MMBtu, and this takes into consideration the marginal cost of supply being the United States. Let me finish there and see if there is any question.
Thank you very much, Claudio. I will wish to give you more time because I can see very good engagement with the audience. Unfortunately, I do not have that mandate, but we'll be happy to catch up later. I will quickly move on to Professor Bahram Taheri. Professor Taheri is currently the director of Nexus and the Circularity Center from Islamic Republic of Iran. Professor, very good to have you here, and you do have the floor.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to apologize for being a bit late. I am basically here because Dr. Mousavi, our great colleague who has worked for many years on the topic, is not here. He got basically injured just before the program. And then please consider me as a photocopy of Dr. Mousavi. And when you make a photocopy of anything, it becomes two-dimensional, and you lose one dimension, and I hope that you will accept that deficiency here. And then, of course, comparison of fossil power plants with renewable power plants in Iran. I think when I talked to Dr. Mousavi, his main concern was that, of course, the natural gas is an excellent replacement, for example, for coal. And we saw just the results from the presentations. But at the end of the day, what we have is that when you use natural gas, you are still emitting CO2 into the atmosphere. And when you emit CO2 into the atmosphere, you should look at what is the condition right now. We are almost at 425 ppm, a bit even more. relative to the pre-industrial age of 280 ppm. And that basically means that we are close to 140, 150 ppms higher in concentration of CO2. And it has a potential, based on the correlations of the last 500,000 years, to increase the temperature in the long term, if it stays like this, by 14 degrees. And then it is also representative of almost 280 gigatons of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere relative to what we had in pre-industrial age. And to make it certain that how problematic is that, many of you may not know that the hottest planet in the solar system is not Mercury, it is Venus, and it is 300 degrees hotter than Mercury. And why is that? Because it has more CO2 in it. So while we are going to appreciate, on behalf of Dr. Mousavi, all of the efforts of our friends in the gas sector, but we have to move to renewables as fast as we can. And here, basically, an introduction of the Iran Renewable Energy Association. And I should say that they are one of the organizations which are under more pressure than any other similar organization that you may find in other countries, because they are in an oil-rich country, and there are a lot of subsidies, and they have to compete with. And that's why I would like also to applaud them on that subject. And you see here basically proven reserves of oil. You see Iran has 209 billion barrels of proven reserves. Then when we go to the share of different kind of energy sources, we see that natural gas is almost 65%, petroleum 32%, and then the rest is something like 5%. And then when we look at the largest proven reserves of natural gas, Iran, after Russia, in terms of volume, is number 2, and in terms of thermal value, is number 1. So that is a very, very high, difficult competition for renewable energies in Iran. And then let's look at the total installed capacity of different kinds of power plants. We have a total of 93 gigawatts of installed capacity, and you see that the fuel that they are, or the energy source, natural gas is 73%, oil 15%, hydropower 10%, and again the rest you see are very, very little of the renewable type. While we are quite rich in terms of fossil fuels, we are also quite rich in terms of thermal capacity, thermal potential in Iran. You see that we have like 4.5 to 5.5 kilowatt hour per square meter per day radiation capacity. And that basically tells us that we really even don't need the fossil fuel. Basically, everywhere that you have good reserves of fossil fuel, usually you have also very good potential for solar potential and solar radiation. And you can see also at the bottom of the slide, in terms of the renewable energy installations that we have. For wind, it is 376 megawatts, for solar 792, and the rest are of minimal value. And then regarding the renewable energy production in Iran in terms of million kilowatt hour, we see that from the renewable energy electricity, so far this year it has been 266 million kilowatt hour, and its cumulative amount is 13,000, basically 13 billion kilowatt hours. And then fossil fuel conservation. Basically, conservation may not be the best word. The fossil fuel, which has been saved, is equal to 72 million cubic meters, and the water conservation, because in many of the power plants, based on the water worthiness of per kilowatt hour of electricity that you generate, there is some consumption, water consumption, and there is a value of between 1 to 100 difference between the kilowatt hour of water electricity that we generate. So the overall, based on the average, it is like 59 million liters of water is preserved. And then prevention of CO2 in terms of 1,000 tons, we see the cumulative is like 8,000, basically 8 million tons, and then 149,000 tons so far this year. And then, in fact, let me go through a couple of them. And here is basically in terms of financial support and how much is the price that you produce electricity from each different resource. You see that basically, for example, for private and foreign investors and the value of targets and policies for 12,000 megawatt of renewable energy up to 2026, 5 cents per kilowatt hour for 20 years PPA, and 6.9 cents per kilowatt hour for against the 6 years of PPA, and 9.5 cents per kilowatt hour for 6 years for auction of wind, solar, and then you see that basically the solar and wind have better, relatively better kind of return values for the investment. And then in terms of power plants, they have made the comparison based on two different categories: environmental factors and economic factors. And the environmental factors have been decomposed into two other key indicators: water consumption and emissions. And the other one, in terms of economic factors, capital costs and LCOE. And these four factors have been compared across large hydropower, nuclear, photovoltaic, wind, steam, gas turbine, and steam alone. And when you make that comparison, again, you see in the left-hand side graph, PV and basically steam, gas turbine, and wind have lower capital costs. Nuclear, of course, is quite high, and also large hydro is quite high. But based on the basically lengths of durability and life cycle of any facility that you make, they are going to produce different values of the different amounts of electricity. And you see that when you go to that LCOE for that comparison, wind is quite good in terms of dollar per megawatt hour of electricity generated, and after that PV is better. And of course, these are perhaps a bit old. And then I was talking to Dr. Mousavi, he said at the moment in Iran, PV is even better than wind. And then the water consumption, we see that for different kinds of, for example, for wind, it is close to zero, PV close to zero, geothermal is high, CHP, you see the amounts, steam, and then gas and nuclear. And then in terms of looking at the nexus of energy and water, we see that again, both wind and photovoltaic cells are much better deal when we talk about the nexus of energy and water. And here then, looking at the fuel consumption in terms of million cubic meters, that is the distribution in Iran. So it doesn't show perhaps which one is better. On the left-hand side, that is the total amount used for fossil fuels in terms of equivalent to million cubic meters of gas. And when we look at the emissions for kilogram per kilowatt hour, we see that steam and gas are not that good, but when we go to combined cycle, it is much better. And I should also say that when we talk about measurement of emissions, it is based on a scope 1. So within the perimeters of the facility that you are generating. If you go to a scope 2 and the scope 3, even only adding the scope 2, it increases the value of emissions almost by twice. So you have like close to 1.5 kilograms of emission per kilowatt hour when you include a scope 2. And here is basically that comparison that I mentioned. They have made between different types of power plants and the indicators and sub-indicators that I showed you. Again, you see that if you go to, for example, solar, in many of the columns at the end, you see the number 0. So it means that they have much lesser ecological footprint and inclusive of water and carbon and all of the others. Again, I think this was the last slide that Dr. Mousavi told me just, of course, before going to my previous talk that I had, and I just came from there. You see that while gas still is quite good, but we have to focus on solar and wind, and I hope that our friends in the gas sector and also in UNFCCC and IPCC can help the renewable energy players in countries which have to follow a very hard competition, difficult competition with the subsidies of the fossil fuel sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Tahiri, for a very comprehensive intervention, a case study of Iranian renewable energy system. Distinguished audience and our panelists, just to recap, for those who have joined us during the session, this is a UNFCCC side event that is focusing for renewable energy and natural gas partnership as a sort of potential way forward for energy system. I want to quickly move on to Mr. Malik Mashoud, who is the head of climate and atmospheric emission of Sonatrach. Mr. Malik, you do have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Malik Mashoud, and I work at Sonatrach, the national oil and gas company of Algeria. As an NOC, Sonatrach is aware of the dual imperative of addressing climate change while ensuring sustainable development for our country. This dual mandate requires a balanced and pragmatic approach to the energy transition, one that aligns with both national development goals and the global commitment to a low-carbon future. To this end, our company has adopted the comprehensive strategy that integrates sustainability in our operations, invests in low-carbon technology, and addresses key sources of emissions. Today, I will present a case study on one of our flagship initiatives, our efforts to reduce methane emissions across our operations. This initiative demonstrates how targeted, measurable actions can contribute to both environmental stewardship and operational efficiency. Sonatrach adopted the new climate strategy on 22nd July 2024. It focuses on key mitigation areas such as reducing flaring and methane emissions, and with the aim of achieving a balance between GHG emission by sources and absorptions by sinks. In its updated HSE policy on 21st October 24, Sonatrach has formalized its commitment to contributing to the global effort to combat climate change and its effects by reducing its carbon footprint. Sonatrach is committed to develop climate strategy implementation programs underpinned by emission reduction targets consistent with the goal of achieving a balance between greenhouse gases and removals by sinks. 7 main levers have been prioritized with a particular focus on the low-hanging fruit of flaring and fugitive methane emission reductions. The use of solar energy in our plant is also a major focus, with photovoltaic plant already in operation at BRN and a second under construction at MLE in southeast Algeria. Energy efficiency is also a key focus. 100% of our facilities across the value chain have undergone energy audits, and the resulting improvement plans are being implemented. The target include reducing the overall flaring rate to less than 1% and eliminating totally routine flaring by 2030, in line with the goals of the Zero Routine Flaring initiative promoted by the World Bank, in which Sonatrach is a stakeholder. The company also aims to achieve a similar target for methane emissions. The projects planned for period 2022-2026 will prevent the emission of almost 4 million tons of CO2 equivalent. Achievement of these targets will be monitored using both top-down and bottom-up approaches. I won't dwell on the sources of methane emission from gas industry, which are now well known. Today's case will focus on methane emission from flaring and fugitive leaks. A variety of technologies and approaches are now available and have proven their worth in methane mitigation. We will look at leak detection and repair later, which Sonatrach intends to promote on a large scale. Several of our sites have already equipped themselves with OGI cameras and are beginning to implement training plans for conducting leak detection and repair campaigns. Flaring can be a significant source of methane, particularly for flares that do not achieve the theoretical efficiency rate of 98%. In 2016, as part of Algeria's commitment to the Paris Agreement, Sonatrach has undertaken to reduce the overall volume of gas flare to less than 1%. In 2018, Sonatrach joined the Zero Routine Flaring by 2030 initiative promoted by World Bank. 19 flared gas recovery projects implemented at operating units since 2020, and 2 projects planned for 2024 resulted in the recovery of more than 1 billion cubic meter of gas. We can also highlight the introduction of top-down methods to estimate flared gas volumes and methane emissions in partnership with the Algerian Space Agency. This slide shows the particular case of the TFT site, where more than 1 million cubic meter per day have been recovered by the projects carried out. The photo of the flares show the evolutions of the flames before and after the projects. There are several approaches to eliminating venting, but today we'll look at fugitive leaks and leak detection and repair techniques. This diagram shows the different phases of an LDAR campaign, from detection and quantification to leak repair. Carrying out for the first time at Sonatrach a methane leak detection campaign from 22nd July to 1st August 23, with specialized personnel and OGI camera on pipeline transport layer linking Rue de Nous to Hassim Saoud. The campaign covered a total of 800 kilometers of gas pipelines. We'll take a brief look at energy audit campaign, which can reduce methane emission from combustion, that covered all Sonatrach sites, and then we move to our work with Algerian Space Agency. The partnership with Algerian Space Agency ASAL for the quantification of flared gases using satellite energy has been extended to the detection and quantification of methane emissions. A contract was signed in 2023 with Algerian Space Agency ASAL to undertake satellite-based flaring and methane emission detection and estimation studies. The strategic partnership has resulted in a methodology for estimating flared gas and the ongoing development of a methodology of detecting and estimating methane emission. As a reminder, researchers from Algerian Space Agency have developed a methodology for estimating flared gas volumes using infrared images from satellite. This methodology was published in Multidisciplinary Digital Publishing Institute, journal Remote Sensing on 2022. Sonatrach's entire strategy is based, of course, on capacity building and large-scale training as embodied by its training and advanced training centers. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Malik Mashoud. Very detailed country-specific energy transition and decarbonization system from Algeria. Thank you again. We do have the honor to have an online participant. I'm just checking with our IT team if she managed to resolve the technical issues. If not, we will take a couple of questions from the panelists, from the audience, I mean. Okay, as we are waiting for the last online panelist to sort the technical issues, I will be happy to take questions from the audience. I wonder if we do have a mobile microphone around. Okay, yeah. We do have. Okay.
Yeah, I was lucky to already get that, but I'm happy to hand it over to you as well. Question to anyone who feels like answering it. Many gas exporting countries actually roll out renewables to free up gas for export, and that's a very economic strategy. Azerbaijan arguably is doing that. And I wanted to ask what you make of that and what the barriers are. For instance, in Iran, I was wondering, wouldn't that be a very smart strategy for the country? Thank you.
Thank you very much for this question. Let me see if we can get a response, and then we take the next one. Just as a reminder, the question of our gentleman is the smart strategy for Republic of Azerbaijan has been seen by the person as a very strategic way of making sure that renewables and natural gas are used in a different system, whether for export or for domestic prioritization, depending on the kind of situation. I'm wondering if anybody, and again, feel free, anybody from the panel that want to take it.
Yeah. We'll give a perhaps short response. The point is when you use gas as fuel, you create a carbon footprint. I'm not sure whether or not you know, from January 1st, 2026, European Union has created a system in which they are going to tax your carbon footprint for anything that crosses their borders and has a value of more than $150. So it is quite smart if you use the gas as feed rather than fuel, so that you don't create carbon footprint. And last year, the value of the carbon traded in Europe was close to $90 per ton. And for example, in ERIA, as one of the products in petrochemical industry, for example, you have per ton of urea, you have between 500 and 1,400 kilograms of carbon footprint. It means that something that you are going to sell it only for $300 to $350, you cannot afford to pay $50 to $150 of carbon tax on that. So that is quite smart to do that, I think.
Thank you very much, Professor Tahiri, for this. I'm very lucky to have our next participant who managed to have joined online. Thank you very much. I'm very well welcome Eleanor Kramaz, who is the Global Head of Energy Transition at S&P Global Consulting. Eleanor, if you can hear me, we do have a question here that will likely want to pass on to you. I do know that as part of your consulting leadership at the SPGCI, you have seen different regional and sectoral kind of energy systems that do require different kind of mix and kind of adaptability. I wonder, how do you see the relevance of renewables and natural gas based on geography and equally based on sectoral dimensions?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question, and thank you for inviting me to join your panel this afternoon. So, yeah, indeed, I think it's a very, very regional matter. So it all depends on essentially the cost of different resources, the potential of different resources. I think even in regions, let's say, where you have a very high percentage of renewable, typically we still see, unless there's an absolute perfect match between the resource, let's say the wind, the solar, you have battery, and you potentially have hydro in your system, you still need a percentage of natural gas often in order to balance out your grid. And obviously that's on the electricity side. And then obviously that's for areas, I would say, that are quite mature. So where you have a very high percentage of renewable, where you have a very developed grid already. If that's not the case and you are further out in terms of renewable penetration, like natural gas is also essential in order to balance your grid and essentially balance your priority between affordability, sustainability, and resiliency, right? So that's on the grid side. I heard the previous question as well that was very interesting, and we do see a lot of countries indeed ramping up their renewable in order to export more natural gas. That has indeed an impact on the footprint of the natural gas. If you can produce your natural gas, or your LNG, let's say, with more renewables. But in general, it's probably a much better economic decision in the sense that, you know, if you do have low cost renewable, like Egypt, for instance, and many other countries in Azerbaijan, you can create an arbitrage with Europe, right, which has higher cost renewable in most places, and where you still have a need for natural gas, again, to balance the system and for the industrial part, right? And that's where I was going to, like, essentially the feedstock competitiveness, because on the industrial side, it is still very difficult to displace natural gas.
Thank you very much, Eleanor. There. Thank you very much again. Despite your multiple meetings and commitments, you still managed to join us. We are very grateful, and hopefully you are here. We are rounding up the event in the next 5 minutes, so I'm happy to take hopefully one more or two questions depending on the time frame, because we have to leave the room 5 minutes before the time. Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm Yahya Bajan from Senegalese Ministry of Energy. I would like just to share Senegalese experience about mixing gas utilization and renewable energy in power generation. We'll produce gas shortly, and we'll go for gas to power. At the same time, we've declared a Just Energy Transition Partnership, JETP, with G7 for 2.5 billion euro of renewable energy investment. But what is challenging for us is financing the gas to power infrastructure from multilateral bodies. The question is for every one of you, what could be the best way to unlock financing the domestic gas project? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question, and I will take another question so that we'll just round up with them and answer them together and be able to close on time. I do know that you do, yeah. So just when you finish, pass on the mic to him, and then we can round it up.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Emilian Nyanda from United Republic of Tanzania. My first question goes to the professor.
Kindly limit it to one, please, because of time constraint.
That's one. To the professor from Iran. The calculation of gas emission, the figure you pointed out, is it a general or average by each type of gas? And the last one is on the PPA for solar, the 20 years. We are being told the price of solar technology is significantly going down. Now, why are you pegging at that long time, the PPA for 20 years? Thank you.
Thank you. If you can get the mic to him, he has been off. Yeah, we take all the questions and then we address them together as we round up.
Thank you very much. I first of all like to appreciate the panel, the Secretary General, and all the panelists in here for the very informative presentations. But two very small questions. First question is the title of the meeting, the event, the partnership. I'm still looking forward for examples or instances or the potential partnerships between the two energy sector providers, the renewables, there is no competition, please. And the gas being, so the partnership is something that I'm really hoping that we could see a number of examples of. And besides the green hydrogen and so on and so forth, if there are scopes for that, please do elaborate so that we would be having fuels for thoughts. And the second issue, the observation, is rather regarding the storing of the natural gas during the off-peak seasons. The UGS, the underground gas storage, is a significant potential for all gas exporting countries in the oil and gas depleted fields, so that when we have demands or where we are in a position favorable financially to offer more at a much more attractive rates, we can just extract them out of the storages under the ground. This is a good potential for the gas exporting countries forum to be able to provide their contributions for the transition to a decarbonized world. Thank you.
Thank you very much for these three set of questions. I would like to pass the floor on to the panel for these three questions. I won't mind if different people will somehow sandwich them and answer them. Again, we just have a minute or two to leave the venue because of the oncoming event in this same room. The panelists, you do have the floor in any order.
Perhaps only the last question of Dr. Shafipur. I think that is quite important, what you just mentioned, UGS, because the carbon footprint is going to be, the taxing of the carbon footprint is going to be per dollar value of the product which is exported. So if you store your gas and sell it at a higher price, then basically in the economic sense, it will help you to pay lesser tax per dollar that you are earning. I think that is a very smart strategy to go with. That is the question that I wanted to mention. And the other question that the gentleman asked me directly, as I mentioned, I had another speech just before this one, and then Dr. Mousavi asked me that he encountered a problem and asked me to present instead of him. I'm not sure exactly the methodology that they have used to calculate, but according to the numbers that I saw, because we have developed an MRV, measuring, reporting, and verifying system for the electricity system, that number was very, very close to what we are registering every day in our MRV system for a scope 1 and the gas consumption as a fuel. That number was very close to that one. but I'm not sure exactly what the methodology was. But I can give you my card at the end of this meeting, and I will ask Dr. Mousavi what was, because there are, as I mentioned, a scope 1, a scope 2, a scope 3, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. We have to consider all of these. And only with your permission, sir, I would like to add like 15 seconds. When I said about like there is a potential of 14 degrees temperature increase, I was very careful to say that that is a correlation. It doesn't mean cause and effect. The record of the last 500,000 years shows that for every 10 ppm change in the atmospheric concentration of CO2, there is a correlation with 1 degree change, either lower or upper. And that is why when we moved from like 180 to 280 ppm in the atmosphere, the temperatures went from -8 to +2, 10 degrees change. So, but it doesn't mean cause and effect, and it will not really happen for the case that we have today.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor, for a very comprehensive response there. I think we have to get it close. We do have one final question from the gentleman regarding Senegal, and I will kindly refer you to the GECF website, where I'm sure you will get very valuable materials and report, particularly on some of the financing opportunities for the natural gas and renewable partnership. We will have to close it here. The topic for our theme for today, natural gas and renewable partnership, which was jointly conducted by the Gas Exporting Countries Forum and the Iran Renewable Energy Association. We have had a very comprehensive and country-specific best practices, which we do believe that this will continue to make impact as we move on to achieve sustainable, equitable, and just energy transition. Thank you very much to our panelists and to our esteemed audience. Thank you.